Fosi Audio has just released another new Class D amplifier, the MC101. Now, if you're anything like me, you're thinking, didn't they just release the V3 amplifier? The answer to that question is yes. So what I hope to do in this video is compare the MC101 side by side with the V3 and try to help you make a decision if you are considering buying either amplifier, or if you already own the V3, maybe this will help you decide if you made the right decision or if you should have held out for the MC101 instead. Let's jump into it now. Now, both of these amplifiers share the same base retail price of $100, but they often go on sale. For instance, the V3 is currently at $73, so be sure to check pricing before you decide which one you should buy if that's important to you. Now, they do have different amp chips inside, so stick around because later on in the video, I'm going to do a side-by-side sound comparison and tell you which one I think sounds better, if at all, and whether or not that should help you make a decision in which one to buy. But before we get there, I want to grab the camera and get up close and personal and do a side-by-side comparison with both these amplifiers and show you the difference in features, because I do think that's going to play an important decision for others who are also interested in buying one of these amplifiers. Let's jump into that next. Now, it's pretty obvious from the get-go that there is a style difference between these two amplifiers. Obviously, the MC101 is bringing you the old school VU meter that's become kind of common on these Class D amplifiers, while the V3 has no meter whatsoever. Another main difference that you will see is that the MC101 has tone controls. You can control the tones for bass and treble, while the V3 simply only has a volume control. You're also going to notice that the MC101 has Bluetooth. Now, this is Bluetooth 5.3, very easy to connect to. And because it has Bluetooth, the MC101's power switch gives you the ability to, when it's powered down, you will power up to Bluetooth if you want Bluetooth, or you will go all the way up for RCA. Now, the V3 does not offer Bluetooth connectivity, so the powering on and off is just the simple turning on and off of the volume knob, just like that. Now, looking at the rear of the unit, you'll notice that it's pretty similar outside of the Bluetooth antenna on the MC101. Both units have a pre-out option that you can see there. Now, there is a difference in power rating. The MC101 is rated at 100 watts times 2 at 4 ohms, while the V3 is rated at 300 watts times 2 at 4 ohms. So keep that in mind if power is important to you when trying to decide between which one you would want to buy. And lastly, I'd like to point out that the V3 has the ability to swap the op amps if that's something you're interested in obtaining a different sound signature, while the MC101, from what I can tell, does not offer you the ability to swap op amps. So if having that feature is important to you, the V3 has that option while the MC101 does not. So those are the difference in features between the two amplifiers, but as I mentioned earlier, there are different amp chips in each of these units. The MC101 comes with the TPA 3116 chip, while the V3 comes with the TPA 3255 chip. Now, with different chips, that means I wanted to do a side-by-side sound comparison and see if I could really hear much of a difference between the two. Let me grab a couple CDs and explain exactly what I heard next. Okay, for the sound comparison, it's important to point out that I kept the tone controls on the MC101 at the 12 o'clock position so as to not change the sound signature too much versus the V3. It's also worth pointing out that whenever I was listening to music between the two, I always want to make sure I've got the decibels matched as best as I can. And what I noticed is at the V3, I had to turn the volume knob considerably higher to match the decibel rating of the MC101. Just felt like I didn't have to turn that knob up near as high to get a louder volume that I did with the V3. So I'm not sure if the V3 just has a little bit of a different gain control with its volume over the MC101, but I did prefer the volume capabilities with the MC101 over the V3. But enough about that, let's talk music. One of the CDs I listened to is one of my favorites by Johnny Cash, American 4, The Man Comes Around. Look, you gotta know it's one of my favorites when there's a crack in the front that goes from all the way over the front cover. I'm sorry about that, Johnny. I will fix that later. One of the things that I forgot on this album is that he covers Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode, and John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers actually plays acoustic guitar on that song, as well as the infamous organ and piano player Billy Preston. Now, I listened to this song a lot between the two amplifiers, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't blow me away in terms of one sounding better than the other. I really had to struggle to kind of come up with a different sound signature between the two. So I wouldn't be too stressed out if you're thinking one sounds night and day better than the other. This is what I noticed. The MC101 seemed to be a little punchier. It seemed to have a little bit more detail. Johnny's vocals were a little bit more forward. I could hear Billy's piano playing just a little bit more detailed than I could with the V3. Now, that's not to say that I preferred the MC101 over the V3, and that's what I would that's what I would tell someone to buy. Like, you gotta buy the MC101 over the V3 because of the sound signature. Again, they're pretty close, but if I had to nitpick and get really, really specific, those are the differences that I heard when listening to Personal Jesus on this CD. Now, I wanted to go to the complete other end of the spectrum because I know bass is an important sound signature for people considering buying these Class D amplifiers. So I pulled out my copy of my favorite Roots album, Phrenology, and listened through it on both amplifiers. And I have to say, you're going to be pleased with the bass sound from both of these amplifiers. I couldn't really choose one over the other. Now, most people will point out that the MC101 has tone controls, right? So if you're somebody that just really wants to push bass as far as you can, you may want to consider the MC101 because it's going to give you the ability to push that bass with the tone control and tweak the sound a little bit further than the V3. So which of these amplifiers should you buy? Well, I can confidently say that the sound signature is not so different for me that I've got to tell you to buy one over the other due solely to sound. Now, I will tell you, if you're someone that likes to dial in the treble and bass with tone controls, you're most likely going to want to consider the MC101 over the V3 as it has tone controls. Also, if you're someone that likes quick and easy Bluetooth connectivity, you're going to want to go with the MC101 as the V3 does not have that option. However, if you're someone that enjoys lots of power in these Class D amplifiers, you're going to be interested in the V3 with that higher power rating. Also, if you're someone that likes to tweak with sound signatures above and beyond tone controls and swap op amps in and out, you're going to want to go with the V3 as it gives you that capability where the MC101 does not. As these Class D amplifiers keep flying off the shelves and into our homes to review, the sound is not becoming so much of a selling point to me as maybe some of these features are. These amps have really come a long way in sounding good enough for their price that you're not going to be disappointed. So if you're struggling to make a decision on which one to buy, maybe lean more towards features over sound in this instance. Now, Fosi Audio has been really busy this year. They also recently released the tubed preamplifier, the P3. And I had the pleasure of reviewing that a couple weeks ago. If you'd be interested in learning more about a preamplifier to pair with one of these Class D amplifiers, you can do so by watching my review of the P3 here.